Police security officers killed in Rivers deadly attacks. Bandits kill one, abduct many in Kaduna. In international news, at least 82 burned to death in Baghdad hospital fire. And in sport, Kamaru Usman knocks out Masvidal to retain welterweight title.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Nigeria Center for Disease Control reports 35 new coronavirus cases in 6 states on Sunday. The first fatality after 12 days of 0 deaths from the COVID-19 virus was also recorded, raising the total to 2,062. Total infections figure now stands at 164,719. Lagos reports 18, Rivers had 7, Oyo records 6, FCT posts 2, Ekiti and Kaduna were credited with 1 each. Nearly 155 patients have recovered and have been discharged so far, while 93 cases are still active in the country. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has described as barbaric Sunday's deadly attack where 9 persons, including 2 police officers, were killed. Wike said there was no justification for the attack against innocent security personnel on legitimate duty of protecting life and property in the state. The governor has urged security agencies in the state to be more vigilant and has vowed to fish out the perpetrators of the attack. In a similar incident in Imo State, police spokesperson in the state, Nnamdi Omoni, has confirmed Sunday's deadly attack, where some security officers were killed along the Omagwa-Isiokpo-Elele Owerri Road. He said the commissioner of police in Rivers has launched an investigation into the attack. And barely 2 days after the killing of 3 abducted Greenfield University students in Kaduna, bandits have attacked Askey Baptist Church in the same city on Sunday, killing a medical doctor and abducting many worshippers. A local newspaper reports the bandits surrounded worshippers as early as 9 in the morning in Manimi Tasha village, Kuriga ward in Chukum local government area of the state. An eyewitness who narrowly escaped said the bandits began to shoot sporadically at the worshippers as they scampered for safety. Most villagers are already abandoning their homes because of the constant attacks in Chukun local government area. The All Progressives Congress APC has described the attack on Governor Hope Uzodima's home as an attack on democracy. The party also condemned what it described as the one-time attacks on police personnel and formations in Abia, Imo, Ebonyi, Anambra, and Rivers State. The party's condemnation of the attack was contained in a statement by the National Secretary of its Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee in Abuja. It says the attack on the governor's residence is an attack on democracy and constituted authorities serving the interest of the good people of Imo State. The party says its leaders will not watch helplessly as some persons and interests attempt to turn Imo State to a killing field. The gunmen first shot 2 security men at Oguta Junction, killed 6 guards at Uzodima's home before setting the house ablaze. The police confirmed 3 dead. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Ali Uzodima, has called on the federal government to expose all the more than 400 burial discharge operators recently arrested for allegedly funding Boko Haram insurgency activities in the country. Undume, currently representing Borno South Senatorial District in the National Assembly, has also demanded an open trial of all the suspects. Presidential Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity Garba had said some days ago the Nigerian government had arrested some operators who were facilitating the transfer of money to Boko Haram terrorists. Ndume says Nigerians deserve to know what the government was doing concerning the suspect. He said he was tried publicly and was vindicated when wrongly accused in the trial that lasted 6 years in an open court. Southeast Governor said on Sunday the legal framework for Ebubiagu, the Southeast Security Outfit, has been set in motion. The leaders say they have directed Attorney General of the 5 Igbo states to propose laws to give the outfit a legal teeth. The governors launched Ebubiagu, translated Glory of a Tiger, 2 weeks ago to address the region's worsening insecurity. The governors say they have also set up an advisory board for Egugabu after agreeing on its structure and operational modalities. In a communique read by its chairman and governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, the Southeast Governors Forum said Ebubiagu would work with security agencies. The governors also sympathized with Imo State's governor and called on the federal government to fish out the perpetrators and ensure their prosecution. The forum also directed Ohaneze Ndigbo President General Professor George Obiozor to set up a Peace and Reconciliation Committee and a Strategy and Welfare Committee within 10 days. Governors of Enugu and Abia also attended the meeting. Those of Anambra and Imo were represented by their deputies.
Coming up, African stories. Concerns grow in Southern Africa over an outbreak of avian influenza in South Africa. And later, international news. At least 82 burned to death in Baghdad hospital fire.
You are watching ANN.
Susu is fine. No, she's not crying, oh. But we are watching cartoon. Ask grandma, I'm the one that used to take care of Yabo that time. Take your time.
They cry, oh, daddy, oh, daddy, oh.
I will call you back. Your daddy is calling.
Explore without limits. Turn it up on MTN, the reliable data network.
Everybody say.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Concern has grown in Southern Africa over an outbreak of avian influenza in South Africa. Some regional governments have decided to ban import of poultry products from the country after some 300 birds died at a commercial chicken layer farm east of Johannesburg. Samples from the farm tested positive for the H5 strain. Correspondent Sumitra Undu has the story.
The avian influenza was detected at an egg-producing farm in Gauteng. Samples tested positive for the H5 strain of the virus, which is similar to the outbreak that occurred in 2017. The farm has been placed under quarantine after around 300 birds were culled.
Poultry meat is not affected at this point in time. They don't have the outbreak on a broiler farm. It's on an egg farm. This particular farm of 240,000 hens represents less than 1% of the national flock of egg-laying hens in South Africa.
3 neighboring countries have already banned poultry products from South Africa. This includes Mozambique, which relies on 70% of its egg supply from South Africa.
It's most unfortunate that they have imposed an outright ban, unlike Namibia, in our opinion, who's been the most sensible of all, in that they have banned products from a particular, what they call a compartment or an area where surrounding this farm that was diagnosed with HPAII. So the rest of South Africa for Namibia is still open to export to.
Test results have shown that the flu is highly pathogenic and can spread.
Risks that it actually presents in my space is that if it actually is not contained within the area that it actually broke out in, and it manages to get to my farm, then it could in turn affect my investment.
In January, Sibanda discovered that a common respiratory disease was affecting her flock, resulting in crippling losses to her new operation.
I had a batch of about 2,500 chickens, and out of the 2,500 chickens, we lost about 900 chickens in a space of 2 weeks. And at some point we had to, as an entrepreneur, I had to come to a point where I had to make a decision. What do I do, especially with the older birds? Because as you know, with older birds, you can't really cure them. So you have to decide, okay, do I stop administering medication and slaughter 1,000 birds? Who am I going to sell 1,000 birds to as a small scale farm? I had to slaughter those birds, and luckily, we managed to contain the actual disease, and we had to tighten up our biosecurity.
Poultry exports fell 20% after the last outbreak in 2017. The industry has recovered since, with exports to SADC countries pushing 54,000 tons in the last year. But there are concerns that this outbreak could cause another decline if it is not contained soon.
There was tremendous loss of livelihood in that period. But we've learnt a lot since then in terms of the biosecurity protocols and the quarantine protocols.
Farmers are calling on government to initiate a vaccine program. Birds carrying the disease are flying from countries going into winter, making it very difficult to manage.
Like in many sub-Saharan African countries, Ugandans believe they know so much about malaria that they resort to self-medication. This has led to a situation in the country where the disease has become resistant to anti-malaria drugs. Correspondent Hilary Ayasiga reports.
Amina Bazarama can now smile with her son. Her son has been discharged from the hospital after battling bouts of malaria for a week.
Malaria plus.
We've been struggling with malaria for a long time. Before we were admitted, we had visited several other hospitals, and the findings indicated that my child had high malaria and bacteria infection, but he was not getting better.
Health workers say drug resistance in malaria treatment is now common.
In about 30% of the patients we get, they come in with resistance already due to the numerous and various types they have used before coming to hospitals.
A similar concern has also been highlighted in a recent Lancet report which showed that drug-resistant malaria is gaining a foothold in Africa. Ugandan health workers are now discouraging patients from self-medicating so as to reduce incidences of drug resistance.
Self-medication is the biggest complicator of all treatments that we give. So we strongly advise patients or people when they have signs and symptoms of malaria that at least they can come and have a test done.
Figures from Uganda's health ministry show that the country registers 25,000 cases of malaria per day. Doctors here say they treat 20 patients daily suffering from malaria. They are now encouraging the locals to use preventive measures like mosquito nets. The government is now promoting outdoor residue spraying and distribution of treated bed nets to keep the disease at bay.
Mosquito themselves, there are still plenty. So we are calling upon the people, let's try and work on the water lodges, your environment. If there are bushes, clear the bushes. If there are water lodges in the compound, make sure there are no water the water drainages are clear. If at all your house has got windows, and in the evening you close the windows so that mosquitoes not enter into the house, and you sleep under the mosquito net.
Through a campaign dubbed Under the Net, the government has so far distributed over 27 million treated bed nets. Health workers are now hoping that this and many other initiatives will help Uganda become malaria-free.
Tunisian officials say hospitals' intensive care units have run out of beds as coronavirus cases in the country spike. A North African state has recorded around 10,000 deaths since the start of the pandemic. Correspondent Adnin Chawochi reports.
Tunisia's health ministry has been working to provide more ICU beds and reduce the pressure on public hospitals.
The health department is under pressure to provide ICU beds. We've reached the limit in public hospitals. We've used the equipment gradually, but the surge in infection cases is unprecedented. We've requested help from private clinics.
The Prime Minister criticized the lack of support provided by the private sector to the COVID-19 task force. Moreover, the government is considering requisitioning private hospital beds.
ICU beds are not available. We're looking for urgent solutions. The problem of lack of means is critical. The government will not hesitate to take new measures to provide ICU beds.
According to the National Observatory of New and Emerging Diseases, 92% of ICU beds and 85% of oxygen-supported beds in the public hospitals are currently occupied by COVID-19 patients.
The Scientific Committee on Coronavirus has warned that the health system in Tunisia is collapsing in the face of an unprecedented surge in the number of infections.
When we return, international news. At least 82 burned to death in Baghdad hospital fire. And later, sport. Kamaru Usman knocks out Masvidal to retain welterweight title.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Khalidi has fired main hospital officials in Baghdad, including Health Minister Hassan al-Tamimi, hours after a fire broke out in an intensive care unit for coronavirus patients and claimed at least 82 lives. The Prime Minister blamed the fire on negligence by authorities. The blaze was said to have started after an oxygen cylinder exploded in one of the wards. Firefighters battered flames into the early morning and at least 28 patients on ventilators battling severe symptoms of COVID-19 were among the dead. Interior Ministry spokesman Khalid al-Muhanna said more than 100 persons were also injured. Most of the dead and injured were patients. Iraq has been decimated by decades of war and sanctions, and its healthcare system has struggled to cope with the coronavirus crisis, which has killed more than 15,000 persons and infected more than 1 million. India has set global record for the 4th consecutive day on Sunday in new daily COVID-19 cases, with nearly 350,000 infections in 24 hours reported by the country's health ministry. It was also the 4th consecutive day when more than 300,000 cases have been reported in a single day in the country. A total of 2,767 deaths were also added during the same period, the highest daily death toll in the country since the outbreak started. In total, the country has reported 16,960,172 cases and a death toll of more than 190,000. Between Wednesday and Sunday alone, India reported nearly 1.4 million confirmed cases. The skyrocketing cases have overstretched its health system, with a serious shortages of beds, medical workers, medical oxygen, and medicines hitting headlines in media reports across the country. Saudi Arabia has guaranteed continued energy supplies to China after the breakdown of negotiations among Saudi Arabia, Russia, and other countries on the reduction of crude oil production in March last year. Saudi Arabia increased its domestic crude oil production to 12 million barrels per day, setting a new record for daily output, and international oil prices plummeted. Subsequently, Saudi Arabia and Russia reached an agreement with other oil producers in April last year to cut oil output. Even with that, energy cooperation between Saudi Arabia and China has shown steady growth. Not only did Saudi Arabia's crude oil exports to China reached nearly 85 billion tons last year, up nearly 2% from the previous year. It also remained the largest crude oil supplier to China for 7 consecutive months as of last month. Chief Executive Officer of Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabia's national oil company, recently said ensuring China's energy security over the next 50 years is one of the country's top priorities.
Up next, sport. Kamaru Usman knocks out Masvidal to retain welterweight title. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone, or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Kamaru Usman has retained the undisputed UFC welterweight title at UFC 261 in Florida by knocking out Jorge Masvidal in the second round. The bout took place in front of 15,000 fans in Jacksonville and was a rematch of their meeting at UFC 251, where Masvidal stepped in on 6 days' notice but lost out to Usman on the scorecards after 5 grueling rounds. Usman is set to earn $1.5 million after his second round knockout win, while Masvidal will earn as much as $900,000, and thanks to the crowd at the venue and a high pay-per-view sale. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great evening.